I managed not to scream, so the stress levels are pretty good right now. But thank you so much for having us this evening. My race is actually in the primary. It's on August 26th. Early voting starts on Monday. My opponent right now is Kathy Foster, who's unable to be here this evening. But I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself. First I want to tell you I'm a public servant. For more than 20 years, I've worked at all 3 different levels of government. Most recently, I actually currently work right now for the county in their Office of Legislative Affairs with members of the County Commission and with the delegation going up to Tallahassee and advocating on behalf of the needs in our community. We have been very blessed as a team in the fact that we've been able to secure resources that have brought back money to our district that has gone for roads and for water improvements, for workforce development, and for higher education in terms of the expansion of Palm Beach State College. Prior to working for the county, I was blessed to work in the office of United States Senator Bill Nelson. Very honored to have worked with such a good man, and we look forward to continuing a good relationship with him should I be elected as a county commissioner. Also, for more than 20 years, I have been a volunteer and an advocate for those voices that can't afford to hire somebody to speak on their behalf. That includes our foster children. That includes our victims of human trafficking and our homeless men and women and children. That also includes children that need guardians ad litem in the courthouse, fighting for their funding, fighting for improvements in education. I have been a class mom in the kindergarten class. I have volunteered over 100 hours at my children's elementary school each year the whole time they were there. Still volunteering on school advisory committees and PTOs. I will have 3 children in 3 different public schools in Palm Beach County starting 1 week from Monday. So it should be an interesting juggle considering I'm a single mom. So I'm very, very blessed. I have a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 13-year-old. So life is full in my house. Which brings me to my last point. I'm a mother. And I am the only one in this race right now that is raising children in our community, in our public schools. So the reason I got into this office was to make sure that not only my children have the resources and the opportunities that they deserve, but that all of our children have those same opportunities and resources. And this district is very unique in that it contains one of the wealthiest zip codes in the entire United States in Wellington, and some of the poorest zip codes in our country with areas in the Glades. And a lot of those families and those children out in the Glades are still struggling and have not felt the benefits and the impacts of the economic recovery that some of us have felt. And I want to make sure that they have an equal voice on the county commission, just like every other community in this county has. And I also want to make sure that not only as a commissioner am I working with the other members of the commission, but I want to make sure that I'm working with our business leaders, our nonprofit leaders, our leaders in Tallahassee, and our leaders in Washington to make sure that we are maximizing every local resource we can with every other possible resource that we can try to bring back to the community. And as your commissioner, one of my top priorities would be to create an environment that allows job opportunities to come back into District 6, especially in the Glades. That allows for infrastructure improvements, continue to improve the road systems, continue to improve the water systems, make sure that we have a smart managed growth plan for this area since it's the last area in the county that could experience astronomical growth. We need to make sure that we do it properly, safely, and with our resources online before we bring in an influx of residents. Workforce development. We need to continue the good work of the school district that has reopened West Tech out in the western communities to allow for vocational training for our students and for our adults that want to try to change careers and be able to provide for their families. I want to make sure that our neighborhood schools are in safe neighborhoods and that they have the roads and the sidewalks in place to make sure that our kids can get to and from school. It concerns me that right now the school district, if you read the article in the Palm Beach Post, 9 of the 17 schools that could be slated for closure are in our district. So I just want to make sure that we fight and keep our families safe and our schools safe too. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Lisa, and if I said Michelle earlier,
You did it. I just
Okay.
was a joke.
next we're going in alphabetical order. Next we'll have Michelle Santamaria.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to thank you for giving each of the 3 candidates here an opportunity to get to know you all a little better and also have you know us a little bit better. I was really excited to hear right behind me, it's Sarah, right? And your sister? Christina, are scholarship recipients from CAFCI. How recently, Sarah?
Last year.
Last year. And Christina?
2008.
2008. I'm very excited because 20 years ago, aging myself, back in 1994, when I was a senior in high school, I was lucky and blessed enough to receive a scholarship from CAFCI. Yay! So I want to thank you for that because things have changed over the years, but you helped support me and my education. And so many great things come from CAFCI. In fact, back then it wasn't it wasn't for community involvement. It was the Friendship Club Incorporated, but they changed the name back in 2000. So that's how far back it goes. But thank you so much. Since that time, and since getting that scholarship, it took me to the University of Florida, where I got a finance degree. Thank you for that. And from there, I went on to Rollins College and got a master's in business. And then finally, a law degree from Stetson Law School, the #1 law school in the nation, which I went there for trials. And that all started with the help of everyone here in CAFCI. So I really want to express my appreciation, let you know what happens when you give back to the community and the students, and it really helps us out and brings it full circle. So thank you very much. I grew up in this community since I was 9 months old. My mom and dad, who are sitting in the audience, brought us here from the crime in Philadelphia. They wanted to get away from that. And even before that, they came from the Philippine Islands. I know this is the Caribbean group. Well, we came from the Philippine Islands, and also my dad's background is Spain. So I grew up in a family history based on Spanish culture, Filipino culture, and grew up in the American society. They always stress the importance of education, which I got. I grew up down the street in La Mancha. Went to H.L. Johnson, was the first class there in 3rd grade, second across the street in Crestwood Middle School, and finally at the time, we didn't even have a high school here in Royal Palm Beach, that's how old I am, then I had to go out into West Palm Beach for school. Since that time, after I graduated from law school, I came back to this community, right here where I grew up. I was a crime fighter. I became a criminal prosecutor because I love trials. That's why I went to the #1 trial school. So I went back to my home community to fight crime right here, including Wellington, Royal Palm Beach, the Acreage, and throughout all of District 6. And it taught me a lot of lessons about what goes on in the community and the deeper reasons why crimes occur and how we can also prevent crime from happening. After being a prosecutor, I then followed my father's footsteps and became an entrepreneur. I started my own business based on what I saw in trials. There were witnesses who were having trouble testifying. We teach police officers how to shoot a gun, how to collect evidence, how to write a report. But if they don't know how to articulate themselves, if they're nervous, and not everybody's a good public speaker, they can be caught up by a slick defense attorney. And they get away with crime and victimizing people over and over again. So I thought to myself, they should have a class, just like lawyers have classes on how to ask the right questions, right? How to win cases. They should have a class on how to present themselves in court. So I put this together. It started locally, right here in Palm Beach County, once again, my hometown, and it spread throughout Florida and then the nation. And within 2 years, the Federal Bureau of Investigation picked up the class. So I'm very excited to have come full circle. That was about 6.5 years ago. Now, many people have tried to convince me, and one who's with the camera right here looking at me, my good friend Rhiannon, who came into town just for one day. She was one of the people who tried to convince me to become a county commissioner. Sure, my father said it, and other people in the community, but I don't know, how often do kids listen to their parents? Almost never. But it took listening, not only hearing the voices of friends and family, close friends from all over, that it started to occur to me, if everybody from all walks of life, young, old, in town, out of town, maybe there's something to this. Maybe I need to listen to it. And that's when I decided to run for county commissioner. I've seen my father do it for the last almost 8 years. And now it's my opportunity to give back as well to this community where I grew up. 2 goals that I have. How much time do I have? 2 seconds. Thank you very much. Are 1, honesty in government and supporting the Inspector General, as well as, I brought this up, my number 2 is protecting the quality of life that we all came here for, which is also part of the CAFCI mission statement. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the scholarship 20 years ago. It's really worked out.
Next we have Andrew Shell.
Thank you to everyone for being here, and of course to our host for having this event. We don't get enough time as candidates to ever speak to enough people, so thank you very much for caring, and thank you for having us here. My name is Andy Schaller. I will be on the ballot in November, the general election on November 4th. I'm the only Republican in the race. I'd like to give you my background and tell you why I believe I'm qualified to be your next commissioner. And as I do, I'd like you to sit here and think about who you want to represent you. Not who's your best friend or who you know or whose name you might even know the best, but I'd like you to think about who would represent you in battle downtown and represent the best interests of you and your family. I came to Palm Beach County in 1987 after 4 years of college. I had my Bachelor of Arts in Marketing, and I became a stockbroker. I handled all the fixed income investing for the 3rd largest thrift in the U.S., which at the time was owned by Ford. I handled all of Broward and Palm Beach counties. I went on from there. I was a regular stockbroker as well in the speculative area, but I worked in the banking area and their conservative investments as well. In 1994, I started my own business. I own an electronic banking company. I handle the money for places like Gold's Gym, World's Gym, Powerhouse Gym, church tithing, condo associations. If I haven't handled it yet, I'm probably about to. I've handled over 550 businesses across the U.S. and Puerto Rico. In that 20 years, I've never raised my rates one time in 20 years. And I haven't had to advertise in the last 17 years because all of my business comes from referral, word of mouth. How many people can look at any check you write to any corporation, to any service provider, and say, your bills haven't increased in 20 years? The reason I can say that is because if I need more business, I go out and get more business. And the reason I don't have any advertising expenses is because people know me, they trust me, and some auditors from the state of Tennessee use my business as a model to check on other recurring transaction companies when they were inspecting Tennessee businesses. Very proud of that. About 6 years ago, I became involved in county politics as of late because in 1990, when I bought a house, I got involved with some different issues with transfer development rights of a local community that was trying to have 100 homes built where they were only allowed 72. I've been successful so far, along with many others, stopping Lions Road from coming through our neighborhood. And then I got involved with a county project that about 3 weeks ago, after 6 years, donating some property to the county, endless amount of time that's gone on, staff time, human being time of everybody around. We now have a project that will be moving forward and correcting some of the wrongs that the county had done for the first time in their 100-year history. In the last 6 years, I've spent more time in the county commission, county meetings, out at the GTAC, out at the Army Corps of Engineers, Indian Trail meetings, the Anchorage Landowners Association. I spent more time in any one given month in the last 6 years than the entire 6-month period of all of my campaign competitors combined. Now that's very important because when you ask somebody to step up that first day when they get sworn into office, after you're sworn in, you have to start dealing with the county and start at that moment dealing with the agenda for the day. So when we talk about experience, so much experience is gained from being there month after month, year after year, and understanding the different issues. I have been through my own issues with the county, so I know what it's like to knock on the door of the 12th floor and ask for help. I know what it's like to have myself sitting in the audience and hearing the popular opinions that support you and then the unpopular opinions that don't. When you look forward to having somebody be your county commissioner, there's only 2 jobs a county commissioner really has. The first one is to set fiscal policy. They take in your taxes, they distribute them back out. The second is to set governmental policy. So when you are looking at us for candidates, I would ask you, as the HR department, because you're hiring one of us to represent you, I would ask you to look into our personal lives and see how well we've done with our own finances. And then use that to say, there's somebody with experiences that I don't mind letting handle $4 billion of county funds, our money. And after 4 years, you can vote them out, but for 4 years, you're stuck with that person who's leading into battle. Also, in order to get anything done in this county, there are 7 county commissioners. You need to have the vote of 4 people for or against. So one of the most important things is not causing division amongst your other county commissioners because you need their support. Because all 7 commissioners vote on all 7 issues, we need to get a consensus of at least 3 more to be able to have what you want done moved forward or to have what you want stopped. I ask for your support in November, and I thank you for your attention tonight. Careful, right?
I'd like to know what one word you guys personally think you use to describe yourself.
To start with.
Integrity.
One word to describe myself. Well, integrity's already taken. I won't copy your word. But I think something that's so obvious the minute you meet me is enthusiasm.
Real.
I just want to get, what
Just
are
a little
your,
bit louder.
okay, my question has to do with management of growth in the western communities. I'm sure we're all aware of the big development that has a lot of debate. I go around and I noticed that water levels in a lot of canals and ponds are down. We've seen what has happened with the runoff from Lake Okeechobee and a lot of development in areas and how that impacts the environment and the existing communities. I just wanted to get your feedback on what is your take on the development in the western communities?
That's okay, I don't mind going first. I have a pretty realistic approach as far as development in the western communities is concerned. I would love to say that we should keep things the way they are, but that's not real. We have economic studies that have shown that more than 765 people starting in January will be moving to Florida every day for the next 5 years. So we have to plan for that growth. We also have a situation in Tallahassee where they dissolved the Department of Community Affairs, which normally handled a lot of the growth management decisions. Their hope was that that would give control to local governments over their local growth decisions. From my experience in Tallahassee, I don't see that as being the case. I think what's happened is they've put more power back into the hands of the legislature. We've seen that with some decisions they've made in terms of ag enclave language, in terms of doing away with concurrency in lieu of proportionate share, which hurts our ability to get revenue from developers to do infrastructure improvements. And we've seen that in a tiny little amendment they did 2 years ago, that if you say no to a developer and they're large enough, they can go to Tallahassee and seek to be incorporated, become their own city, and make their own development decisions. So my approach would be to make sure that we sit down with everybody at the table and try to negotiate and come up with an agreement that works for the residents and can keep, at least a little further west of here, some of the rural flavor that they have there, but still accommodate those decisions at the local level and not hand over that power to the state.
This is a fantastic question, and this is a hot topic right now in Palm Beach County, specifically to the western communities. One of the areas, there was a county meeting this past week regarding Minto West out in the acreage, which is going to affect a lot of us with the traffic issues. And right next to that, which is sitting on the wayside, waiting to see what happens with Minto West in the decision, is GL Homes. And there are other huge developments that are all waiting to see what happens. I had a conversation with Ms. Audrey earlier today before the meeting, and she was explaining to me, I was asking about herself, why she came down to South Florida for her best friend, and that's why she came here and why she chose Royal Palm Beach. But she had looked at Miami, she had looked at Broward County, but those places have a lot of traffic. And like my parents, they lived in Philadelphia, crime. They came here to get away from that. And that's what attracted many people, and many people in this room, to this community. I see a lot of heads shaking their heads yes, and that's exactly what happened. I've talked to people out in the acreage, specifically this week when we were at that county meeting, to get their feedback. Why did you choose to live here? And they said specifically for the character, for that rural feel. They like living on their dirt road. Not everybody wants to be in a dirt road. Maybe some people like skyscrapers and they move to Miami. But the people in the acreage want those dirt roads. They love horses. They love their livestock. They love that there's no limits on those things. Here's the problem. Let's say you work hard for however many years in your life and you decide you're going to move, raise children. You think, you know what, I love to golf. I'm going to pick a golf course community. So whatever your favorite golf course community is, you find it. You find that lot that you love. It's on a certain hole. It has a look. You've got all this open space. And you're like, you know what? I worked hard for this money. I want my kids to have this place. They're going to have this open green space of a golf course, and I get to golf if you're into that. You pay that money. Fast forward 5 years, 7 years, 10 years down the road, next thing you know, the developer is going in front of the county commission saying, you know what? We want to change that golf course. We're going to bring jobs. There's always the promise of jobs. We're going to bring jobs to the community. Instead, that golf course, we're going to turn it into townhomes. We'll put a nice community center in there. And all of a sudden, that lot that you bought, that you love, that you wanted your kids to have that open view of green space, is now going to have building after building after building. So your property value could go down as a result. And guess what? You thought it was a nice, lovely local community, easy drive down to Okeechobee or wherever. Now you got lots of traffic to deal with. Are those developers going to cover the cost of all that extra traffic and infrastructure you have to take care of? Those are the things that need to be addressed on the front end. And I think that's something we need to watch. And it's the two things. Honesty in government. You've got to watch the developers. Like Melissa has said, development is natural, just like technology is. But we need to have responsible, intelligent, and compatible growth that maintains the character. So whatever you came to this community for, just like in your mission statement that you have right in front of you, it's about our quality of life, and that's what we need to protect. So those are the things we need to keep track of. Watch those developers, and that's why it's so important to have an inspector general. As a criminal prosecutor, I know that because we existed and because we prosecuted crime, there was less crime occurring in our neighborhoods with my family and with my friends because of what we did. That's why we have to support the inspector general, have that watchdog, so that there's not those slick deals going on behind the back where people are making millions of dollars and now you've got a parking lot or a building what once was a beautiful view.
I heard 2 points to your question, sir, and I'll address them in reverse order. Number one, you have to ensure property rights. In the western communities, there's other people that were there for 17,000 different homes in the acreage itself, as well as the surrounding communities of Royal Palm and anywhere part of the West Palm off of North Lake. You have to protect and preserve present lifestyle and present property rights. The new people coming in have property rights also, but their rights aren't greater than the existing rights of the people who've established that area. That's number one. The second thing is you asked about water and water level. Please understand that there's a very, very finite balance on how much water can stay in the different canals. For example, Lake Okeechobee is handled by the Army Corps of Engineers. The water from the Kissimmee River Basin up by Orlando drains down into our lake. 3 to 4 inches of rain in the Kissimmee River Basin adds 1 foot of lake level to our lake here. The issue then becomes a balancing act as to how much water may or may not come from a predicted or not predicted rainfall in a given area as far north as Orlando, and then how much to let out of that lake, because the lake right now is under a 1 to 5, 5 being the worst, is a number 5 in critical area. So they can't have the high levels of water in the lake, which then trickles through the different canals over into our area here. You don't know the predictability of how much rain Mother Nature is actually going to dump on us. With that, we don't know when we're going to need the extra capacity of an Isaac storm, something like that, where you have to have money in the bank, which means dry land to put the water. So number one, without a doubt, we need to do something about the Army Corps of Engineers finishing up the project so we can have the capacity in the lake. And then number two, we have to make sure that we don't pave over everything with no percolation of ground. The meeting that was referred to talked about 2 million square feet out in Calorie Judge, which is now Minto. From where I come from, rain does not percolate through cement very well over rooftops.
Any other questions? And this will be the last question.
This is the first thing from the list. I have in my hand here flyer from your campaign. And it lists several topics, partial list, education, partial list, professional experience, partial list, skills, partial list, community service, partial list, job references, partial list. That's the one that got my curiosity a little bit. And I have a question about that. You list 9 job references here, and that's a partial list. And my question is that an indication that you cannot hold on a job?
That's a campaign flyer. Those job references are a list of my endorsements. I included 9 on there because to try to fit the more than 40 endorsements I have would require that document to be a lot more extensive than it already is. My volunteer work, I think, is a partial list because, again, if I included every single volunteer job that I've had, that I've committed my time and my personal resources to, that document would be 3 to 4 pages longer. So, no, that's not any indication that I can't hold down a job, sir. That's an indication that I have numerous endorsements and numerous volunteer things that I've taken on. But thank you for the question.
Thank you, Ms. McKinley, Ms. Santamaria, and Mr. Shower.